My name is Mark Acton from Future Tech. I work for essentially a design company designing data centers. I've been in the sector for probably about 30 years or so, but I'm still learning and the sector's still changing. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I'm just a student like everybody else. But what I have got is a panelist of genuine experts who do know what they're talking about. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves one by one so that we get a better idea of who they are. So, Ricardo, a little bit about yourself, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody. My name is Riccardo degli Effetti. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Synthes. Synthes is a colo provider operating in the Middle East and North Africa region. Newly created, we are a spin-off of Ooredoo Group, which is one of the largest telco in the region. I only joined in November last year, so we're still getting going, but we already operate a number of facilities in the region. I think. Can you still hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ricardo. Furkan?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Furkan here from NG Solutions. We're one of the leading service providers in the region and indeed globally. Specifically here today representing NG because we look after a number of data centers across the UAE, indeed in the region as well, but UAE is the focus. And so we do the facilities management of grey space, white space maintenance, and a number of things, including monitoring the services, which is the topic of the discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Furkan. Aniket? Oh.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon, and I'm privileged to be here with the distinguished panelists. My name is Aniket Patange. I lead the engineering, R&D, and digital services at HCL Tech. We are the largest global system integrator based in Middle East here in Dubai. And I help enterprise customers, operators with digital transformation, either optimizing their IT, optimizing their data centers, or getting them AI ready is what I do. But the last decade, I have spent time with Schneider Electric, where I had established and scaled up lifecycle services business, which gives me good flavor in terms of energy efficiency, sustainability, data center optimization. And I'm privileged again, as I said, to be here and contribute to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Aniket. And finally, Mustafa?
Thank you so much. My name is Mustafa Kol. I am Technical Office Manager at Osama Zaid Azraq Construction Company in Saudi Arabia. This is a 40-year-old company. We are designing and building data centers in Saudi Arabia, and we are EPC contractor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think there's a mic there if you want to share that one. So the theme of this session is to really talk about monitoring. We hear a lot about building data centers. We hear about all the challenges with data centers, power availability, supply chain, etc. But once we've built it, we've got to manage it. And I think that's a real key thing. So I think we don't necessarily talk enough about how we monitor and ultimately manage data centers. So I'm going to start with you, Ricardo, merely because you're the closest to me. So if we can kick it off, how effectively are we actually monitoring? So what is monitoring in a data center all about from your perspective? I mean, you're a colo operator. You clearly need to know what's happening in your data center. How effectively are we currently monitoring data centers? Could we improve it, and what would you do?
There's always room for improvement. That's a fact. From a colo provider point of view, we monitor obviously the basic physical infrastructure. We monitor the perimeter of the data center for physical security. We have a responsibility, I think, as colo providers to ensure that we provide the most energy efficient facilities possible in the region where we operate. And so all the metrics that you would normally associate with the operation of a physical infrastructure, I'm going to mention the usual culprits, the PUE, the WUE, the CUE, all these metrics that really give you, they're imperfect. They're not, by any means definitive in their purpose, But they have, I think, they have changed this industry. They have raised awareness on energy efficiency as a problem, as something that we can't really shy away from. They are unfortunately prone to being misused, as we I think know very well. But we measure them. We measure them because it's the right thing to do. It gives you an understanding of how well you are running your infrastructure. It does give you, especially PUE, but also WE and other, it does give you an opportunity to your point earlier, we were chatting offline, what do you do with the data that you actually look at? You know, it does give you an opportunity to look for opportunities to improve the energy efficiency. And it's a standard metric, so it's universally understood in the way it works, in the way it should be used. But it's not the only thing. I think data center is a complex ecosystem. We are the foundation of that ecosystem. Everything that goes up to the chain needs to be monitored as well. Starting, in my opinion, from the software and then going down the stack in the servers, in the network, in all the other layers. But from our point of view, to answer your initial question, we monitor the physical infrastructure incredibly closely. We could do better as an industry and also Synthes in getting into a realm where we monitor real time and perhaps one day even react in real time to what the data is telling us, but that's perhaps for...
I think you're preempting Mustafa's
So I'm not gonna talk anymore. But yes, that's fundamentally our point of view.
And for Khan, you come from a slightly different direction, don't you? Whereas Ricardo operates the data center, you actually are a service provider running and monitoring other people's data centers. Yeah. Do you see that monitoring piece from the same perspective, or do you have slightly different requirements and therefore a different way of approaching things?
So I think we have a slightly different perspective being the operators, and the way I see it is that the tools and systems that are there to monitor data centers are there. They're very, very comprehensive, clever systems, and they're reasonably versatile. I think where some of the challenges, if you want to call them that, come are in the usage of those systems. So we're in a very, as everybody here knows, we're in a very dynamic region, very changing very fast, adapting very fast, and moving very fast, developing very fast. And so I think the usage of those systems is where the improvements can come, and that's in a number of areas. And I've seen in my own career similar challenges in buildings and other properties in the region as well. I think commissioning the systems properly is something that could be enhanced. I think the usage of those systems in terms of training and operation, that's also somewhere where we can maybe add. But, you know, one of the challenges there is that we're also in a very transient region where technicians and operators and people are coming and going, leaving from the country, as opposed to maybe other parts of the world. And so that's where I see some of the areas where we could possibly do a bit better. The systems, I don't think are, I mean, obviously it's a very wide discussion. The systems could be also changed in various ways, and we could add, as we were discussing earlier, we could add AI into the mix. I'm sure we'll come on to that topic. But those are the sort of the main areas where I see room for improvement.
Thank you. And Aniket, you know, you're as a system integrator, you know, again, you have your own monitoring systems, and you're looking at possibly slightly different things to the FM side. But how's the monitoring from your perspective? And would you agree that we could do a slightly better job of not just monitoring, but probably managing as well?
Yeah, I think let me bring back the discussion to what do we monitor. There are three set of areas which needs to be monitored. First one is the IT infrastructure, the landscape. The second one is the networking infrastructure, and the third one is passive infrastructure. And of course, you know, to handle these, there are three set of people: an IT manager, a facility manager, and possibly a network manager. What we see is that in the country today, as it is, there are two set of KPIs that are being followed as monitoring. First one is all the performance of the equipments and the systems as seen by an IT person or a festi manager or a network manager. The second set of parameters are the environmental safety, the sustainability goals. Now, UAE has embarked upon net carbon zero. By 2050, it will reach to that stage. And they have already mandated that you should reduce the energy consumption, that is the water and electricity consumption, by around 30% by 2030. Now, that becomes very important to be monitored. Yeah? So that is another area. What the underlying principle for this is that while several monitorings exist, I think one monitoring which is very common is a centralized data center infrastructure management, which is very critical. That is something that our companies enable as system integrators and operators. We help integrate all of these things together because the future state of the data center, be it in terms of its performance, in terms of its optimization of the life cycle, entirely depends upon how you monitor. But monitoring is only visibility. I think the key challenge is in terms of manageability, right? So unless you take these first steps and you bring in all the stakeholders from a monitoring perspective, it is not effective. So the yardsticks of monitorings have been very dynamic and they have been ever changing. The landscape is changing. And companies like us, partners like us do help there.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point. There's no point in monitoring something if you're not going to manage it and report it. It's a waste of time. But I think you also make a good point about DCIM solutions. They are a very mixed bag. And I think, I'll be honest, I think the most widely used DCIM system is an Excel spreadsheet. So certainly for auditing purposes anyway. I think we've got some way to go. But Mustafa, when we were talking earlier, you had an interesting point about the maintenance aspect and the information coming in from maintenance. So maybe you could expand on that a little bit from a monitoring perspective.
Thank you, Mark. First of all, I want to emphasize that why we are monitoring the operation, what we are monitoring, and what we want to get from this monitoring. How it will be the benefit to the facility. So if we are looking to this aspect, why we are monitoring and what we are monitoring, we can diversify the monitoring in 5 titles I like to talk about. The first of all, we are monitoring infrastructure and facility monitoring, which is power usage efficiency, PUE, and cooling efficiency, and BMS and SCADA and infrastructure monitoring. In the second type of monitoring, we are monitoring IT devices and applications. This is 2 types of applications and devices in the data centers today: physical devices and virtual devices. In the virtual devices, containers, or the physical devices like CPU, bandwidth, and the usage and the hard disks. This is the second type of monitoring we can get the benefit here. And the third, we are monitoring the security monitoring. Again, security monitoring, I can divide the 2 parts. The physical security monitoring, like access control, intrusion alarms or integration alarms, and the cyber security monitoring. In the cyber security monitoring, there is attacks and the physical attacks and other attacks. In the fourth, we can monitor the operation itself, which is mean time of the repair, mean time of the maintenance, uptime and the downtime, and the other aspects of operation monitoring. In the fifth of the monitoring, which is, I think AI can be, firstly, is entering the data center. I don't believe still, there are many AI talking happened here, but I don't believe there is AI still in the data center. I cannot say there is today we are using AI in the data center, especially in the back end. Because AI, investors going directly for the return of investment to the end users and the front end applications, but in the back end applications, there is no AI solutions. So in the fifth title, I want to talk about predictive monitoring, which is generally we are using equations. When I am coming from the operation and I have background in operation data center and design, and now I am working in design and development and building data centers. Generally, consultants and the clients give us a code. If the N+1 cooling, 2N cooling, or 50% data center, or the storage development. Actually, this is static numbers from the decades, which is not supported by AI or the predictive modeling. For example, we can use in this stage time series regression models, standard deviations and the variance to predict what it will be the data centers. If you look hyperscale data centers like Google is doing, they are not rejecting the TR standards, but they are using this kind of modeling, time series modeling with regression models. And they till, as I know, till 40% they have economy in the power consumptions. So the first question we must ask about the monitoring: what we are monitoring, why we are monitoring, and how we will monitor, and what we will get from this monitoring.
No, I like your point about the predictive side of things, but also your reference to the hyperscalers, because again they have a level of IT redundancy, so they don't necessarily need the building redundancy. But then how do you monitor that? There's a break even, and I would suggest that we don't do a terribly good job in the sector of bringing together the information from the building side and bringing it together with the IT side, so we've got a single overall view on it. I know, Aniket, we talked about this earlier, and I think we still have a gap there, and it'd be interesting to have your views on that as a systems integrator.
Sorry. Yeah, I think the first assessment that we do when enterprise customers call us is that we get into some kind of an assessment at levels where we see who's a stakeholder and what are they monitoring. Okay, and then we, as a system integrator, do two things. One is we help different discrete systems to come together. I think that's the job that we do, because as we see, the legacy is that somebody is handling cooling, somebody is handling power, fire separation, IT network, all are on different platforms. So we bring that on one platform. We bring all the data together, because manageability at the end of the day is getting the right data and then interpolating that data in the right format. So the platform building is something that we do. And then on top of it, we build an AI layer. Okay, and AI layer, I must be very honest to tell you that it is still evolving. So what we have done is, at a data center level, it is still at a very evaluatory stage. But from our side, from system integrator side, we are working with the OEMs who are actually providing these equipments to get their systems more intelligent. Okay, and when we build up a platform and bring all the systems together, that's where the real value is, right? Now, remember that the data centers today are not only on premises; they are in colo, they are on multiple clouds, public clouds also. So that layer actually requires DCIM, ITSM plus cloud native operations to be brought together. And then there is one more layer that comes up, is the AI ops layer. Right, so all these things, as a system integrator, possibly we can do it better, right, and help our customers to get that.
No, I think you're right. We talk so much about AI going into the data center, and clearly as an installed platform, that's happening, to an increasing degree. But we don't really talk much about AI to manage the data center, do we? And I think what you're referencing, I think, is probably the birth of agentic AI, where we start taking those individual data streams and combining them together. At the moment, it's very disparate. We mentioned IT and building and whatever. I think that's where agentic AI can really make a difference. At the moment, I would say we've got machine learning at best, rather than true AI. Absolutely. So I see you're nodding at that. Do you see AI, agentic AI, giving us the ability to go towards true predictive maintenance, true condition-based maintenance? Because I think that's really in your area.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, as NG Solutions and as NG as a group, we have our own software suite. We have a smart O&M system, which is effectively like a BMS system for the grey space. We have our own, we have a package called Sentinel, which monitors utilities, and all of those use AI. But I think you have a very valid point that maybe in a more IT-centric world, those would be more referred to as machine learning. So yes, I very much believe that there's very much some space for agentic AI, as you quite rightly call it, and I think that's where there is a lot of scope, and that's where the development is to come, because it's using the information, which actually does connect with my earlier point about the intelligent client function, as I'd call it, interpreting the information correctly, gathering it in the right place, and using it to its best ability, because the information is there. The systems are quite good even as they are, but if you then add in agentic AI and it does that layer for you, then absolutely it's a great point. It
could be an incredibly powerful tool, and I think Ricardo, from a colo operation perspective, both condition-based maintenance, predictive maintenance, but also I think just the ability to give more up-to-date, rapid information to your clients. At the moment, I know colo operator reporting to clients is a monumental overhead from a human resource perspective.
Yeah, it is, and unless you automate, which absolutely you can. But on the condition-based, I think it's definitely coming. I think there is an obstacle that is easily overcome, but it needs to be discussed. This kind of the elephant in the room in certain scenarios. OEM manufacturers, they expect you to maintain at certain intervals. They expect you to do certain things at certain time to maintain the warranty. If you transition to a place where you maintain a bit more infrequently because not being utilized in the way that you were expecting to, or anything like that, you might run into a situation where your warranty might be invalidated. So it's an holistic conversation needs to happen for this. I firmly believe it's an innovation. I firmly believe it's an efficiency measure because you do less effort to obtain the same outcome. But it can be done in isolation by the operators and the FM managers. It needs to be done in conjunction with the manufacturers.
And are manufacturers, starting to be prepared to go in that direction? Is it a discussion you can have? I'm going to come to you, Farkan, on the same question. Obviously, you're working with the manufacturers too. But are they going there?
I think they will have to because frankly it is the right thing to do, and we are going to ask for it, and at the end of the day we are going to ask for it because our clients are asking us, and this is the direction. So we know that these things are maybe sometimes slow to be adopted, but eventually they'll get adopted. So the sooner you adapt your commercial models to fit into the future, the better.
And you mentioned your clients. Would they be happy to see a predictive maintenance plan rather than preventative maintenance plan?
For sure.
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
Look, it's all about the credibility of the model, right? Yeah. Eventually, at the beginning, I'll be skeptical myself. Okay, but as you gather more data and you gather more evidence, why not? I'm convinced that the customers will be happy with it. Yeah.
I mean, Farkan, on that point, it could be improved maintenance, couldn't it? Rather than sort of, just merely sort of, in a sort of parrot fashion sense, just doing something because a period has expired. Surely if we're looking at basic condition and responding to that basic condition, we should get improved reliability, in theory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's... what you're saying is absolutely correct, but I think one of the things that we need to look at is that the things being monitored are also changing with time. And there's a few things I can say about that. One being that we're moving very fast, and we're already hearing of some data centers being prepared or some pilot studies being done on liquid cooling. So that's a very fast-moving environment. And so the monitoring software and the manufacturer are going to have to move with the flow, with the technology from that aspect. And then also there's, I think we were discussing earlier about maintenance, and there is the issue of predictive maintenance. There is, condition-based maintenance. There are so many different areas of maintenance that you can go to, run to fail, etc., which are used in different industries, of course. But then those areas are also areas that we need to look at in a region where people tend to be quite prescriptive. I've recently seen a spec from or heard about rather, a spec from an end user in a data center where they were asking for temperature and humidity parameters which were more suited to tape drives. And I'm being totally serious. I'm sure you've seen that as a consultant. Whereas the equipment is moving so fast that some of that is not required.
Yeah, absolutely. Customer SLAs that say or SLAs in contracts saying they want energy efficiency, and then requiring ASHRAE recommended. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's a bit of education required there potentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Aniket, I saw you nodding about the complexity of cooling, and I think one area that sort of monitoring and management is increasingly important, is on that cooling side with the densities that we're seeing potentially coming. You know, we're talking about sort of 80 kilowatt, 150 kilowatt, and, you know, possibly even 400 and beyond kilowatt cabinets. You know, it's going to be very, very difficult to manage those. And if something does go wrong, it's going to go wrong very quickly. And I think we've also got to remember that it's not just the liquid cooling, you're still going to have air in there as well, because you're never going to 100% cool just using liquid, which, you know, people forget. So you've then got hybrid cooling with some really dense equipment, some very much less dense equipment. It's going to be a very, very complex environment to manage. So monitoring is going to be essential.
Let's be happy in this room that the maximum savings that are enabled are out of cooling, okay? And the cooling landscape is going to be only more denser going forward and more complex to manage. But I think one thing that I think is possible to be done, we call this as dynamic cooling optimization. Now, here's where AI really comes into being, okay? So I think from all the discrete systems, as it comes on the AI ops, it gives you a platform to actually self-heal, self-study, okay, the entire environment over a period of time. And then actually it gets into automation. It becomes autonomous. So I think that is where the dynamic cooling really comes into picture. Today, what is happening is when it comes to energy management, especially from a cooling perspective, the IT load, energy consumption at the IT load is really not very, very accurate. Although, I mean, at the cooling level, at the power level, at a passive infrastructure level, it is very good. But what we are trying to do is have a special energy management tools which can measure the CPU consumption. It can go up to the CPU consumption. It can go even to the GPU consumption at the core of the processor, right? So when you have this kind of information that is coming to you, and when you have a latency in your data centers, and you know there is dynamic loading of IT, that reflects upon the cooling very well. So I think just brace ourselves, you know, and even in this country, possibly in next 3 to 5 years, you'll have semi-autonomous data centers which run on AI. And by around next decade or so, we may have fully autonomous data centers also. So I think we are evolving. You know, we are developing, we are taking their steps to actually develop solutions and services which look ahead in terms of how do we use all these things to build up. And you know, be ready that, you know, the net carbon zero goal that UE has, perhaps we'll be able to definitely contribute in terms of monitoring and then managing that.
You make a very good point. I think with the the fluctuating nature of AI workloads, you know, the sort of boom and bust that we're going to see on the CPU and GPU side, humans aren't going to be able to respond rapidly enough. It has to be autonomous. We're seeing workloads of 10 or multiple tens of megawatts coming on in seconds. How does your cooling system deal with that? You know, how does a transformer deal with it? You know, how does the grid deal with it? But
so what we have done is, I think that's the innovation that we have done. The kind of R&D that we have done. So I am personally responsible for even the R&D services also. So we have designed innovatively with our customers tools that can actually measure energy consumption at the CPU GPU level also. This is basically a kind of, I may say, a very radical change and possibly a revolution. Now that has to be clubbed with the existing DCIM tools. It is not integrated still. Unless we integrate that, the true benefit of it doesn't come, right? We can't even talk about dynamic cooling, especially in the hybrid cooling environments, right? So I think that's the step that our company has already taken, and we would like to, in fact, provide that benefit to all users here. Perhaps seeing is believing. You know, we would like to showcase that in the next sessions to you.
I understand where you're going. Mustafa, you mentioned earlier that you measure multiple different strands, the IT side, the facility side, etc. So this must be a problem that you're seeing as well, the ability to bring the IT together with the facility so that it can respond quickly enough, you know, to the ramping workloads of AI, etc. So how are you addressing that?
Actually, as per your question, my point of view here is, first of all, to collect the right data from the data centers to take a decision. For example, if you want to make a forecasting for the next year, what will happen in economy and finance, they are using the last years of data. Like in data centers also has cycles, daily cycle, weekly cycle, monthly cycle, and yearly cycles. We have cycles in data centers. So if this data, the cycles of the data results, come out and at the right statistical view and the studies, we can create regression models from it, and we can understand the variation of the what's happening now and what will happen after it. AI need this data. AI cannot come into the data center, cannot work as standalone without any previous information to get a true result from the AI. I think there must be a statistical data what will happen before to to engage the data to data centers, especially in the back end. For example, data center is a data center at the end, but every data center has its own characteristics regarding of the design, regarding of the installation quality, regarding of the cabling, regarding of the passive networks, regarding of the active networks. So every data center has its own character. So every data center has its own behavior, differentiation in the difference. So to reduce the cost in the data center operation, we must get this true data from the data center first. This, as you mentioned, functional data, how the data is coming to data center, is the purpose of the data center can be different. For example, in Saudi today, the first concern is the security in the Middle East. Okay. So security data centers is different than other data centers like for hospitals, other data center for government usage, other data center for private companies. So security, for example, in security data centers, the main issue is the running the operation simultaneously and continuously. And so these cycles, we collect the data from these cycles must be collected to create a statistical data view. If we have the right enough data for enough cycle data, so we can make a forecasting. I am not saying estimation, I am saying the forecasting to use based on the calculation. So if we have this kind of studies, then AI can start to help us. Otherwise, AI just, the AI today may be 15% to 20%. Actually, it's not 100%. And when sometimes you are giving a data to AI, you are getting a totally a different kind of results and not the true result. So in data centers, we cannot try. We cannot give a try. We cannot give a data center to AI today still. So if we have the cycles, the statistical data, I believe AI can help. Otherwise, I don't believe AI can help the data centers today.
So it's really about making better use of the data we've probably already got, in many respects.
The future of the data centers, if you look at, if you are asking question for the Middle East is different, my answer for the global will be different. But the future of the data center today is the backbone of the economy, because the economy is the digital. Today, economy of the 80% of the economy is the digital. So what is the backbone of the digital economy is the data centers. So if you are looking to data centers today, it is more important than what we are thinking it is. And it will be more important than today. It will be after some couple of years, the data centers will be more crucial and important than today.
Thank you. And Serkan, I saw you nodding there. So we haven't got a lot left, but I want a comment from yourself on that. You know, I saw you nodding to that, the use of the data.
I'm in agreement with Mustafa and the panel. I think we're going to sum up now.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the colo operator, final comment.
Final comment. What you don't measure, you don't improve. I think it's important to measure whatever you can from the point of view that you stand from, and do something with the data. Don't just look at it and keep going for the next month, and keep looking for opportunities to add monitoring point and to add monitoring to your infrastructure.
And maybe I maybe monitor and report according to standards that are reproducible, proper benchmarks rather than made up. Yeah. So thanks, panel. I think just in summary, I think the two things I would say is look out for much more complex environment. Let's look at more use of data. And I think in particular, we're going to see agentic AI really helping in this area, taking those different data streams and hopefully ultimately getting to that nirvana of, predictive maintenance, condition-based maintenance, rather than the preventative maintenance that we worked with in the past. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, experts, and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you, everybody, for listening to us. Thank you.